This week, we will address toxic masculinity. Not only that, but we'll discuss the ins, the outs, and everything in between when it comes to relationships, dating profiles, and so much more. Oh, before I forget, relationship expert Brandan Rader will be joining us this week. Enjoy, y'all.
Welcome, everybody. It is J-Ho, and this is Barbara Queer.
I'm Alexander Jamal, and today we're joined by special guest Brandan Rader, who is a relationship expert, correct?
Hello. That is correct.
So, Brandan, why don't you give us a little bit of insight as to who you are, what you do, what you're all about? Let everybody know.
Yes, I'd love to. So I am a matchmaker, date coach, and relationship expert. My background is in behavioral psychology and interpersonal relationships. I founded my business back in 2014, where I started helping my clients with their lifestyle goals, fitness, nutrition, wardrobe styling. Then I moved into date coaching. And then one of my clients actually was connected with Patty Stanger from the Millionaire Matchmaker from the Bravo show. And he asked me if I'd be his matchmaker. Told him I didn't have experience. He said, if I connect you with Patty, get you mentored, he said, will you be my matchmaker? I said, yes, absolutely. And I went and mentored with her for a summer, came back, started the matchmaking division of my business. And then in the past 3 years, I joined a larger company just so that I could grow and expand as a professional. And also personally, I wanted to learn from some other experts. And now here I am today.
Nice.
Perfect. Wow. Not me specifically, but definitely Jamal could use your matchmaking expertise because you're very single, right, Jamal?
Very, very single. And I apparently fuck up all of my dating relationships, I guess.
All of them.
But I guess the first question I want to ask you is, if you had to name one, what would you say is the number one mistake that queer males make when dating?
So I think the number one mistake that, a queer male can make when dating is not clearly defining the boundaries. So in the queer community, we're more fluid and we're more open, especially when it comes to monogamy or the way we dress or how we interact with our friends as compared to our lovers. And, that line can get blurred and it's different for every person, for every individual. So if you don't define those boundaries early on in the dating process, it's going to cause conflict. And usually conflict leads to separation.
Interesting. Okay. See, that's weird for me because, well, I guess that question doesn't necessarily have to relate to me, but I know I'm very crystal clear when it comes to expectations when I date. What you see is what you get when it comes with me or when it comes to me. And for some reason, I'm always just dating the wrong ones. I'm always dating the ones that are like the here and nows kind of thing, or like they say they want something long term. But then let's say, for example, the last guy I talked to, the moment we had an argument, it was like, oh my God, we had an argument. Oh, okay, bye. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like, that's not how it works. You know what I mean? Like, and the example I gave to him was, because I said to him, like, well, cool. So just so we're clear, because it was a cordial split apart, but I was like, so just so we're clear, you're running. And he goes, I'm not running. And I'm like, yeah, you are. And I'm like, for example, I like to say that back in the day, people used to fix their TVs when they broke. Our generation, we simply go out and buy a new one. And I find that that's what dating is today. Right. So, yeah, go ahead.
There is a large part of that, where we do have this idea of where we have access to thousands of people at the tip of our finger. And so when something goes awry in a relationship, it's like, well, I'm not going to stick around. I'm just going to see what else is out there. So there definitely is that issue that you're addressing. And I do experience that a lot when it comes to date coaching. The other piece is that when you make your intentions for a relationship and a person clear, it also has to be done with a little bit of finesse. So another problem that I encounter when it comes to dating is when people are almost too forthright, because that comes off a little bit too strong and it can scare people away. It's kind of like when you have like an animal and you are like, oh my God, that animal is so cute. I love it. I want to pet it. I want to be around it. Sometimes you have to like let it warm up to you a little bit and let it get an idea of your scent and your style and your presence, so that you guys can then start cuddling, and getting to know each other. So I think with the example that you provided, if you're telling someone that I am looking for a serious, committed relationship, that's something that you could kind of state in the beginning, right? Like, so yeah, I'm looking for a serious relationship, but then you want to define, what does that mean? Because a serious relationship is going to be different to everyone, right? I always recommend, instead of telling someone, what exactly it is you're looking for, or asking someone too direct of a question, tell a story. So that would provide an example of what you're looking for in any type of lifestyle or relationship goal. And then the key is pay attention to their response, because their response when they're contributing to a story is going to be more authentic than if you just ask them a direct question. When you ask people direct questions, whether we're aware of it or not, our brains automatically go to, what does this person want to hear? How can I paint myself in the best light? And so oftentimes, subconsciously, we'll respond in a way that might not be the most authentic. So for an example, say your goal is to have this committed long-term relationship. That's your broad goal. So then you want to take that and you want to get specific. So what does that mean to you? You could say, well, a committed long-term relationship to me means that we are monogamous and that, we spend time together a couple times a week in the beginning, and maybe try exploring new hobbies together or something. Just get specific. And then you turn it into a story. And this story is what you're going to tell on your dates. So say you're on your first date. You're trying to get a feel for, is this guy actually interested in a long-term relationship? So you tell a story and be like, so, I cannot wait until things start to open back up and we can travel again and, we can visit other countries. I personally love travel, and I'm really excited to kind of start traveling with someone. That's one of my goals, is to explore the world with a future partner. And so we can just build memories together, and then pay attention to how he responds. Does he say, oh yeah, that sounds really amazing. I love traveling alone. I travel by myself or with my friends all the time. Okay. So the way he's responding right there is he's not being inclusive of a future partner in his travels. So right there, he kind of tells you that, okay, he might not be as relationship oriented as me. Or he might directly tell you, no, I'm not really big into travel, and I'm not actually in a stage where I'd want to start traveling with someone. I would prefer to, travel by myself or with my friends. That's kind of my alone time. He directly tells you, I have no interest in traveling with a partner, which means that he's not ready to start incorporating someone in his life. Or he might say, I think that, oh my God, that sounds amazing. I completely agree. I love exploring. I love traveling to new places. And it would be great to be able to do that with someone you love or with a partner. And so in which case he tells you that relationship goal aligns. And also, if your a lifestyle goal is travel, then he also just told you that lifestyle goal of travel also aligns.
Interesting. I love that. Jay, any thoughts?
Yeah, well, as you were just telling us about that kind of like sparked a little experience that I guess had like when I was younger, and how I completely agree with you. Like, if you outright ask somebody a question, like, they are gonna tell you, and obviously I don't think they do it on purpose, but like kind of what it is that you want to hear, just so you don't either like scare the person off, or like you're not showing too much of your quote unquote crazy. And I feel like in the past, like when I was younger, I definitely did do that. Like when people would ask me like questions or whatever, I kind of like, yeah, I was truthful, but I would kind of cater my answer to kind of appeal to what I thought they would want to hear.
100%. It happens all the time. And it's not as if some people intentionally lie, but it's also just human nature. We've been trained since we were kids that when you're asked a question, you should have a response that your, say, teacher or your parent or this, this person asking is going to want to hear, right? Or else you have a negative consequence. And so from childhood, we're trained to respond to questions in a way that we think is going to be best received, which isn't always the most authentic.
Right. And then that being said, if let's say you're kind of that one person that kind of breaks out of that mold and like you do respond with something that is completely 100% authentic to yourself, then that could be deemed as kind of like aggressive or like out of the box or like you're, I don't know, weird or I don't know. But I completely understand, which would in turn obviously make dating that much harder because it's like, it's, I don't know, like I don't want to say it's like games, but it really is like people be out here playing games.
See, I think
Yes.
I think that's the number one reason why I'm still single or have dated and they haven't worked out is because I'm not the kind of guy to play games, if that makes sense. So like I said, what you see is what you get. Like I'm 100% straightforward with all my thoughts. Like I'm not going to sit here and be like, I want to marry you, but you're going to know what's on my mind. Right. And people like this chase or they like to be chased. And I don't like to partake in either one. So, for example, if you and I are talking or dating, I expect you to meet me halfway and I will meet you halfway. So I expect you, if there's a line in the middle, run to that line. I will run to that line as well. And let's fucking meet halfway and live happily ever after. You know what I mean? But that doesn't happen. But I find that within the queer community, we're all after this aspect of perfection, or at least our perfection. And the smallest bit of imperfection, we run. We're not willing to compromise. We're not willing to, compromise. And I find that that's strictly the only reason why I'm single. And I'm guilty of it as well. Like, I can like someone wholeheartedly, and in the moment he like pisses on my leg, I'm like, yeah, we're done. You know what I mean? Like, you pissed on my leg, right? So like, anyway, let's move on to the actual topic of today. So the actual topic of today is mask for mask. And if you don't know, what mask for mask means is one gay or queer male saying that I am masculine or I identify as masculine, and I am only interested in another individual who lives life masculinely, if that makes sense. A lot of people take offense to this. Personally, as we mentioned in a previous episode, I personally don't find an issue with stating your desires. But I do understand why others do. And I get that stating that then goes into toxic masculinity. So let's first touch upon both of your thoughts. What do you think about a person, or what do you think about the idea of someone strictly saying, you know what, only masculine men are able or are qualified or are
deemed
deemed worthy? There we go.
Wanted. Yeah.
Ta-da!
Okay. Well, so this is actually a really interesting topic, and I can't wait to kind of delve into it. But for me, like masculine, I have no problem with masculine guys, masculine gays, masculine whatever. Like, I have no problem with that. The thing I think that I have a problem with is like, what is masculine? So like, masculine is this thing that our society has told us that boys should be, right? But that could be anything. Like, what if from the moment we were born and like growing up, what if masculine was playing with dolls, was, you know, playing with hair, playing whatever? Like, then that would be masculine. Do you kind of see where I'm getting at? Whereas like the word masculine is just kind of what everything that masculine kind of entails is just something that we're taught as we're growing up.
I get where you're going with that, but I think it's important to acknowledge that we weren't taught that. We weren't taught that masculine is playing with dolls, right? And I don't necessarily agree with you saying that it's what we're taught from society. Yes, but I think it's more so what we're taught from our parents. It's child rearing. For example, fathers, son, you can't play with that. Son, you got to play basketball, football, soccer, whatever, right? Mother saying, no, like, you got to go out and make the money, right? While your daughter or your sister stays home and does whatever, right? So I think it's more so child rearing, but I think it's important to acknowledge that in this society, in this generation, this decade, masculine isn't playing with dolls. We know what society deems as masculine. So it's not a question of what is masculine in that aspect, right? It's a question of what is masculine as a whole. Do you know what I mean? Like, does society have the right to deem it masculine? Like, for example, if you're going out and you're building houses, why are you masculine as a man? What if it was a woman? Is she now masculine? Right? So I think it's a broader aspect, for me at least. I think it's meatier than just saying, well, hey, what if masculine meant playing with dolls?
Yeah. So I get what you're saying. But like, obviously I was just trying to scratch the surface as to what like masculine pertains to, like, obviously us gay men.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And I think that, when you think about masculinity and mask for mask, like, I definitely see the point that, it's masculine versus feminine is gender expression, right? And those are societal constructs. Those are things that are defined by our society. And then our parents also adopt these beliefs, and then they indoctrinate their children with these same beliefs. That's, in terms of it being defined by the culture of the society. So I agree with that point. I also think that when you think about, I don't have a problem with the idea of mask for mask in general. I think that it's all about preferences. I think my concern with it is it healthy, and why is it there? Is this truly is this a psychological attraction that was shaped by child rearing or by society, or in terms of deeming what's attractive, what's not attractive, what's worthy, what's not worthy, and that can extend beyond gender, like masculine versus feminine, to body types, thin versus overweight, or muscular versus slender, or it can go into race, it can go into age, all those things. Or is it more biological? Is there something that why we are biologically attracted to this? And I don't know the answer to that. I lean more towards it being a psychological shaping from childhood on. And I think that there are some unhealthy aspects to it, not only to the community as a whole, but also it seems like there's some childhood trauma that the mask for mask men are trying to work through.
Interesting. Why do you think there's trauma there?
So one of my clients, he was mask for mask. And I asked him, I was like, so have you ever questioned or dived into the reason why you are only, and I emphasize the word only, because he was only mask for mask, only attracted to traits embodied by your primary oppressor, heterosexual men. And he was like, I just always thought I was attracted to guys. I never really thought about it as those being the traits of my primary oppressor. And I'm like, well, it is. And I was like, and then we dived in deeper, and he started talking about how, he's like, well, I guess as a child, I was always I was attracted to, from what I thought at the time were heterosexual men. Who knows? These guys may have grown up and been gay and come out later in life, but at that time as a child, they were assumed heterosexual. And he's like, and so I thought they were attractive, and some of them rejected me because I was like, when I was younger, I exuded some more feminine traits. And so I would get picked on sometimes, and maybe called derogatory terms. And so he's like, and so I started kind of focusing on hiding those aspects of my identity, and focusing more on the desirable traits, what he deemed as desirable traits, which are masculine traits. And I'm like, so, and I was like, do you think that, I had asked him, do you think that you are now trying to seek acceptance and validation by only dating other masculine men? Not only internally and psychological validation that, hey, I am worthy and I am attractive to this type of person, or a person who possesses these type of traits, but then also societally, like, do you feel that when you go out, you are not judged negatively by onlookers because you and your partner both possess masculine traits. And at that point, I'd even asked him, I was like, do you think that when you go out with a masculine guy, you guys are out on a date, do you think that a lot of people assume you guys are just friends? And he's like, well, yeah, I mean, people will say that, like, you know, are you guys, I've had it. Some people ask if I'm like, if we're brothers, or, you know, people not assume that we're dating or together romantically. And I'm like, would you feel worse about that relationship if people could tell you guys were gay and you guys were on a date or romantically involved? He didn't have an answer to it. He's like, I don't know, because I've only ever dated masculine men.
See, for me, I think the first thing that comes to my mind as I hear that story is that he's not 100% comfortable with his sexuality. I don't know if I agree with, like, it's an effect of his upbringing or anything like that. And I think it's going to be harder for me to agree with these topics just because I am a masculine man. So, like, for me, I have to wrap my head around how another masculine man can be affected by his upbringing in terms of saying this. So now, the one question I want to ask you is, if the tables were turned and it was a feminine queer boy and he said only femmes, what would you say to him then?
Again, I would want to know why. Like, what is it about the other traits that aren't desirable? And why, what has prompted this type of attraction? And I think that that's the piece that I find most interesting, because of course, everyone has their preferences, right? And I don't think there's anything wrong with having a preference of who you're romantically attracted to. I think where it gets sticky is when it's only the type of traits that you'll date. Like, you're like, I will only date a feminine guy. I will only date a masculine guy. What I have found through, like, date coaching and matchmaking is when people have these hard no's, there's usually something that has happened throughout their childhood or their life or in their past romantic relationships that has caused them to have this altered perception and caused them to be closed off to other opportunities romantically. And so I think that applies to whether it was for mask or femme for femme.
Interesting. Okay.
That makes sense. I think for you, Jamal, like, I think the portion, at least, that I got that you kind of didn't get was, how could somebody be affected, like, with their upbringing, as to, like, why they would just want to be mask for mask? Because I get it. Like, yes, you're very masculine. You're, like, upon
I'm a
first
jock.
glance,
I'm a jock.
I don't think people would be able to tell that you're gay.
The jock.
Okay, well, you're not the jock, but you're definitely more masculine. But I feel like if that gay boy was, you know, growing up, and, like, let's say he had very strict parents that, like, for whatever reason, if he did show, like, a little bit of, like, effeminate quirkiness or whatever, and then they drilled into him, like, okay, no, that's wrong, or, like, you can't do that, and, like, obviously having all these negative, like, connotations to it, then of course with his upbringing, as he matures, he's gonna think, okay, well, that's not okay. Like, my parents told me no. So then, of course, when he goes into his dating life, he's going to be like, well, I was told that as a child that that's not okay. So in my mind, I'm attracted to only masculine guys.
I get that. I get that entirely. I think what confuses me is when someone says mask for mask, how that idea or that ideology is immediately tied to them. What if they simply just are only attracted to masculine men? What if they are only attracted to guys that do labor work? Like, what if that's their thing? What if that's their kink? Do you know what I mean? Just like for example, when some guys go, oh, only blonde haired, blue eyes, that's what they're attracted to. Why does it have to be a deeper rooted issue? But hold that thought. Let's take a break. Have you or has someone you know ever dealt with mental illness? Well, the fact of the matter is, mental illness is far too common within our community. According to the Canadian Mental Health Association, LGBTQ plus people face higher rates of depression, anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorders, and are double the risk for post-traumatic stress disorders when compared to our heterosexual counterparts. With that being said, I think it's very important that we as individuals do ourselves a favor. Ask yourself, what is it that interferes with your happiness? Because from there, we can truly get to the bottom of whatever it is that you're struggling with. That's why I'm excited to bring to you BetterHelp. BetterHelp allows you to connect to a licensed professional therapist in a safe and private online environment. BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with a professional therapist that fits your best needs. I've heard of BetterHelp from so many other places, but the fact of the matter is, it's a worldwide service and it's more affordable than your traditional offline counseling. Oh, wait. And financial aid is available. Once you sign up for BetterHelp, you can begin communicating with the professional therapist in less than 24 hours. You can send a message to your counselor any time of the day, and you'll get a timely and thoughtful response. Oh, plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions without ever having to leave your room or sitting in an uncomfortable waiting room. So whatever you are dealing with, whether that be depression, anxiety, relationship issues, trouble sleeping, you name it, BetterHelp has someone there for you. So join over 1 million people taking the charge of their mental health. Again, that's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P. And if you go to betterhelp.com/barbequeer, you will get 10% off your first month by visiting. Again, that is www.betterhelp, HELP.barbequeer, BARBEQUEER.
Well, I think just gays in general kind of make it a big issue. Like I said before, like for me, like I don't get offended with the whole mask for mask thing. Like when I was on the apps, like, you know, way back when, like if a guy was like, oh, mask for mask, like, yeah, I'm obviously more effeminate than your average gay person. So like, I know that this guy is probably not going to be attracted to me. Like I'm not offended or I'm not whatever. I'm like, okay, well, you know, good luck on your search. But for me, like, I don't see it as a big deal. I understand though where the other side is coming from, where it's like, well, why does it only have to be like mask for mask? Why can't you, you know, be attracted to everybody? And of course, in a perfect world, yeah, everybody would be like super nice about it and attracted to everybody. But like, we don't live in that sort of society. And especially through something like apps where it's a lot easier to say shit that you wouldn't say to somebody's face. I feel that's where people get like their balls in a bunch.
Well, and I also think it's interesting to think about when you're looking at mask for mask, like what, and we kind of broached on this earlier, is what is masculinity? And when you're thinking about masculine traits, is it strictly, is it personality or is it physical attributes? Like what if someone is, say, they look, and I've experienced this before where a gay guy will look super masculine, right? And then I'll talk to him and I'm like, whoa, I was like, he is way more flamboyant than I am. I was not anticipating that. But would he be considered mask for mask because of appearance versus personality traits? And then in which case would a mask for mask guy not want to date him after meeting him? Or is it more about the personality? So if you have a guy who, say, is more effeminate in appearance, but in terms of his, say, you know, his mentality and mannerisms is more masculine, would then that be accepted as mask for mask?
See, that makes complete sense to me. But I would like to say that it depends on the individual person. I think some people, when they say mask for mask, they mean like you work a quote unquote masculine job in a sense, or just a neutral kind of job. How you speak in a masculine manner, meaning like your voice is not high pitched. Sometimes it even can be high pitched because you can't control your voice most of the time. You dress in a quote unquote masculine way according to like what your society or your community considers masculine, because every area of the world considers a different type of style masculine. That's what I would like to think. I'm sure there are some people that are like, no, like you need to do hard labor work. You need to go home, drink beer, fart, all that kind of shit. Like I'm sure some people have their weird fantasies when it comes to mask for mask, but I would like to think that everyone has their own idea of what is masculine. And I hope to God that our community is not that rigid. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like, we know what masculine and feminine are. And I don't understand, like, I personally don't understand why it's an issue. Like, I feel like if you're not masculine, it's not a problem. And I feel like that's what I want to address. Like, why is it a problem? For example, if you're feminine, it's not a problem. If you're masculine, it's not a problem. If you identify as feminine, not a problem, right? But now, why is it a problem when we seek one over the other? Do you know what I mean? Like, for example, if I go to the Korean grill, I don't know if you guys have it there, and I say only chicken, are you going to shun me because I don't want seafood? Like my question is, why is it a problem? I don't think we've answered that yet.
Yeah, I think, what comes to mind for me is, I think and this kind of takes it away even from dating, is I think that it negatively impacts the civil rights movement in general, our LGBTQ rights in our movement and acceptance, because what it's doing is saying that these traits, masculine traits or essentially homonormativity, which, meaning that, the homosexuals who exhibit or embody, traits of our heterosexual counterparts are deemed most worthy. Then goes to that point of saying, like, so if within our own community, we're saying the same thing, if we're only dating mask for mask, or if you're a lesbian, femme for femme, it's essentially saying that these traits are most worthy in our community. They're the most attractive in our community. And even if our words say something different, like, oh no, I accept everyone, I think everyone's amazing. But then you get down to the nitty gritty of, okay, well then, would you be willing to date that person? Would you be willing to, do you really find it attractive or beautiful? And you would say, well, no, because I actually only date mask for mask or femme for femme. And so which case it's saying your words are different than your actions. And I get that we can't change that, right? It's the idea of love is love. We're attracted to what we're attracted to. We love what we love. And so I think there's that part of it. But I think the bad part is that, again, it just kind of echoes that negative, negative perspective and of gay men in the LGBTQ community, not embodying heteronormative standards.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think that, I don't know. I think that for me personally, like having this conversation, like I am not, like, if I was out in like the dating pool or whatever, and like, yeah, I have been known to like guys that are a little bit more masculine, but for sure, like if there was a guy that I happened to be on a date with that was more feminine, like I wouldn't knock it down. You know what I mean? I think that's when it also gets a little, like not great in our community, is when, yeah, like it's fine if you are mask for mask and you want a masculine person, fine. But like the moment where you kind of put down anybody else that's not, I kind of feel that's when it can get like tricky.
So let me give you guys a scenario. Not even a scenario, a hypothetical. Not even a hypothetical, just a thought. What I'm hearing or what I'm seeing and what I every day say that I believe is, I feel like as much as I love it, it's the detriment to our society. And that is the level or the extremism of socialism that our world has gotten to. And the reason why I say that is because every little thing that nixes someone out of the running is now a problem. It's now discrimination. It's now racism. It's now sexism. And sometimes it doesn't have to be that. And that's what I'm gathering from this, right? I'm like, and the reason why I say that is because, like, let's say, for example, let's say I'm like, you know what? Mask for mask. I only date masculine men. But I'm down to have femme friends. I don't see a problem with that.
I don't see a problem with that either. So I think that's what I was saying. Like I'm down for whatever it is that you want, as long as you don't put other people down, or like if you're like, I won't even talk to
wait a second,
a feminine person, like then I have a problem with you.
By
then I'm
me
like,
saying mask for mask, I'm not putting anybody down.
No.
I'm just simply letting you know what I am interested in.
Yeah, of course.
So do you see why I'm saying that our community has gotten to this point where everything is a Me Too movement?
Yeah. Well, I think now it's because people want their voices heard. So whenever there's some sort of thing to like speak up about,
we're all in the uproar. We're all sitting here rioting on fucking in the fucking gay village. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, no, like just because he said there was no more chocolate ice cream doesn't mean he was discriminating against you. Maybe there was just no more chocolate ice cream.
Right.
You know, the interesting thing though is that I experience, because I work with both members of the LGBTQ community as well as the heterosexual community in terms of matchmaking and date coaching. And, you know, the level of isms that I encounter in this experience is baffling. I wouldn't even say baffling, it's staggering. Like I experience ageism, you know, like people saying, I won't date someone who is, you know, 10 years older than me because that's considered old. And like, so that's a preference too. And it could be it's the same within the same realm of preferences, but borderlining a level of discrimination, right? And it's just their preference.
Wait. I want to know why it's discrimination, because we can't say something is discrimination when it's for ourselves. Does that make sense? Like, it's not like we're a job and we have 50 people working for us. It's myself and it's my partner. So now if I'm not interested in someone that is overweight, that's not discrimination. It's my preference.
And I think, you know, but the idea here with like the word of discrimination one doesn't always have to be negative. You know, you can be like, you can be like show discrimination with your diet. You can say like, I'm very discriminating where I only eat fruits and veggies and salads and I, you know, I'm paleo vegetarian, whatever it might be. So, you know, when I think of the word discrimination, it's not always in the negative context of, you know, singling out someone in a negative or malicious way. It's just kind of separating that preference, right? It's creating that preference. Discrimination is a tool to determine your preferences. But I think that when you look at it, like you can say, well, if someone is saying, I will only date someone of this age range, or I will only date someone who's masculine or something like this, those beliefs, because there are personal beliefs, right? As an individual, like you said, this is my partner, but those beliefs and eventually, and those preferences eventually ripple out. You know, we might be single drops, but when we're all together as a collective, we make up a giant body of water. And if you have enough people who have these preferences, it can become negative discrimination. And you see it echoed into Hollywood, like where, for example, if enough people say that only people of this age range are beautiful in terms of dating and as being considered a romantic partner, you see women who are aged out as actresses because enough individuals with that preference of seeing a younger person as attractive have collected together to say, we need to appeal to our mass audience. So that woman who's 40 now needs to be considered a grandmother. She can no longer play the heartthrob or the romantic interest in this movie.
The bombshell.
And then also with gay community, I mean, like if you think about it, most men who are celebrated as coming out, especially like are athletes, there are men who embody heteronormative traits. You know, you don't see a lot of more queer people in the limelight. The people who get roles in movies and who get public, who are praised publicly are people who embody heterosexual traits. Both masculine and feminine. You know, if you're a feminine lesbian or a masculine gay man, And it is because they're more accepted, and those individuals have collected to say masculine is better. That a masculine gay man is better than a more feminine gay man, or a feminine lesbian is better than a more masculine lesbian.
Interesting. So then, to close out, what do you think, or how do you think people can go about ensuring that they are not offending people and still seeking out their personal desires or their personal attractions? Again, while not offending people and while ensuring that it is an inclusive process and that people understand that they are not trying to offend.
You know, the way that I think, and I think this goes for everything, is the idea of being more open-minded. Like, I think that it's okay to say I am attracted to more masculine men, but not just saying I'm only mask for mask. And then the idea of saying, like, I would be willing to explore this, going on a date and explore what this could be with this person who might not be my ideal, but giving them more of a chance to see what could develop. And being open to the process. Because when you exhibit that openness in your personal life, it demonstrates to others that yes, we should be more open to other types of qualities and traits. Now, I do think that it is important, we obviously be true to ourselves and to someone that we're dating. Like, you shouldn't go on a date with someone that you know deep down you will never ever be attracted to, because essentially then you start leading other people on, right? But I do think being more open-minded about it and not being so rigid with only mask for mask, saying like, I have maybe even break it down into the specific traits, not even putting a label on it, but just the specific traits. So be like, I'm the type of guy who likes to go hiking. You might catch me on the football field throwing around the ball. You might catch me having a beer on a patio at a pub with some fellas. Giving those examples of what your lifestyle is like and what the kind of things you like to do and are attracted to. And then let the people, those romantic suitors or those romantic potentials, determine for themselves, do I fit into that lifestyle? Do I embody those qualities or those types of activities and hobbies that person just listed? And if they do feel like they embody those, then you're not discriminating. They are choosing to reach out or saying, I feel like I match this. And if they say, I don't meet any of those. I hate football. I hate beer. I'm definitely not a fellas type of guy. I'm more of a girls guy. Then they're going to rule themselves out just based off of those specifics that you put in. And it's not as offensive as a label of saying, no femmes or mask for mask.
Okay. I like that. rundown. Yeah. So overall, I think what is important for us all to do is understand that while labels are very common to our community, labels are often offensive. And oftentimes, many of us don't want to be labeled. We don't want to be put into a box. And like Brandon said, it's easier just to put out these traits that you are interested in. And if someone relates or understands or enjoys those things, then they can come closer to you like a magnet, right? But when you forcefully label people or put those labels into the world or into the universe, that can then be offensive. I think that's what I've taken from this.
That is exactly right. It's a beautiful summation.
Awesome.
What's so funny about the idea of labels is, okay, so I have never felt like I fit into, yes, I'm a gay man, I'm a cisgender gay male, but I'm like, I don't feel like I fall into any of the other types of categories because my gender expression is more androgynous, but I identify as a male. Even my voice is kind of in the middle, my appearance is kind of in the middle. I'm like, I'm in good shape, I'm fit, I have facial hair, my hair is shorter, but like I wear a tinted SPF with a little bit of rice setting powder, and so I kind of fall in that middle of androgyny. I was like, I don't know what I'd be classified as. And I watched the show Pose on Netflix, and they have that category, Butch Queens. I was like, I'm a Butch Queen. So
that's awesome.
Figured, yes. So I found my place, thanks to Pose.
And that's it, right? It's if you are going to label yourself, you should be the one to label yourself, right? Not others. For me, that's when things get offensive. Like I don't like when someone calls me masculine. Do you know what I mean? Like I really don't. Like I will call myself masculine, but don't look at me and be like, yo, I like you because you're masculine. You know what I mean? Like, no, like get the fuck out of here. Like I'm more like, and what I say all the time, like on apps is I'm more than just a piece of meat. Do you know what I mean? Like don't sit here and look at me like I'm a sausage ready to be devoured. You know what I mean? Like I am a human being, and get to know me beyond the surface, because surface doesn't tell you shit. Right. So to close out, I think that's wonderful. And I hope some people or someone even, took something away from this. And if you are someone that's consistently being discriminated against or shunned for how you see yourself, understand that you're not the only one that feels that way. And at no point in time do you need to give a single fuck what label someone put on your face. Because at the end of the day, you're the one that wakes up. You're the one that brushes your teeth. You're the one that wipes your own ass. And that's all that matters, right? Well, I hope you wipe your own ass. And if not, then kudos to you, because I wish someone else would wipe my ass. Right?
Oh my God. So I want to say that, yes, I do agree as well. And in a perfect world, yeah, like it would be amazing if we could, go on throughout the world and kind of just be like, oh, these are my preferences, and not offend anybody and not have to like tiptoe around or whatever. But although like, if only we could do that. But we also have to remember and realize that we live in the real world. And in the real world, there will always be these people that like will be discriminating, that will say these things just to kind of like, I don't know, somewhat put you down. But like Jamal said, like there is somebody out there, I think, for everybody. And I really don't think that you need to get down on yourself just because somebody doesn't like you because you're not masculine, you're not feminine, you're not tall, you're not blonde. Like I don't know. Those are just, like Jamal said, labels. And I think if we're going to label each other, or if we're going to use labels, we should use them on ourselves and on other people. So on that note, I want to thank Brandan for being our special guest today. Brandan, where can we find you on all of your socials?
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is heart.rader. That is RADER. You can also find me on beeternal.net. That is the letter B and then the word eternal, BETERNAL.net.
Awesome. On that note, guys, remember confidence and confidence only.
Confidence and cock.
Sorry. I forgot. Sorry. Confidence and cock are the sexiest things one can have. I was going to say exude, but you can't exude cock. So, yeah, confidence and cock. CC?
CC me on that email.
All right, Brandon, thank you so much for being a co-host today. And yeah, we'll talk soon.
Excellent. It was a pleasure. I look forward to talking to you guys later.
Awesome. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Bye.